Today is the first Sunday of a three-part series that we're calling Further, Faster, Together. And this is going to be 3 weeks. We're just going to focus on those three terms, and you're going to learn each week how this all fits together. So here we go. The first thing I want you to know is that Northgate, we change things. If you are not aware that things change here, then you need to become more aware of what you're experiencing Sunday to Sunday, because there's always something a little bit different. We try to stay out of the ruts. I mean, you know what a rut is, right? A rut is simply a grave with the ends knocked out. So we want to stay out of the ruts. We change. We want to change. The message of Jesus is that he can change your life. And I think one of the most unfortunate things that's occurred in the church in the last 75 years is a lot of churches stopped changing. And that's really, really sad. So we change. So one of the things we change is we continue to refine what we put out for all of you and for anyone who will listen to us, what our mission is as a church. And we refine that, and we publish that, and we've gone through several iterations of that in the 8 years that I've been here. We started out with, this is a place for people who aren't here yet. And then we said this is a place where you belong, that you belong at Northgate. And then we started talking about this is a place for the nones, the dones, and the undones. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. If you do, we're kind of setting all those things aside, and we're refining our statement because we know that we have further to go. We have further to go. We have a long ways to go. We've made a lot of progress as a faith community. We have seen God do some amazing things, but we're not done yet. We're not done. We know that God has called us to continue to move forward and to move ahead, and we don't want to lag behind. We want to walk with Jesus through all this. So, in order to communicate the best way that we know how, we are going to begin saying that at Northgate, we're here to inspire people to follow Jesus. That we're here to inspire people to follow Jesus. Do you know what it means to inspire? It means to motivate and persuade and encourage. Those are all really nice ways of saying, we really want to kick you in the rear end and get you on board with following Jesus. Because there's something really significant about following Jesus. So we want to inspire people to follow Jesus. And what does it mean to follow him? What does it mean to follow Jesus? Well, Jesus lived in a time where in that part of the world, the rabbinical system was the most well-known religious system in the whole Mediterranean rim. Everybody knew of the Jewish people and their worship of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they knew that in that system there were rabbis. And those rabbis wanted to find other people, usually young men, but they wanted to find other people who could duplicate the rabbi's yoke. Now, this relates to what Jesus says about my yoke is easy and my burden is light, because a rabbi's yoke was his set of teachings, his interpretation of the law. That was a rabbi's yoke. That was what was referred to as a yoke. Now, I know that a lot of people have likened the yoke to the fitting that you put on two oxen so that they pull in tandem. It's a great illustration. It works. That we want to walk with Jesus like that. We want to be attached to Jesus like that. But that's not what the yoke referred to when Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." He says, "This is my teaching. This is my interpretation of the law. This is how I see the worship of God functioning in an individual's life." So rabbis We're always looking for a way to duplicate, to recreate, to make sure that their teaching continued way past their life. And many of them were very successful at this. And they would say to young men, come and join me, follow me, and learn my yoke. Learn my yoke. One of my favorite things to imagine is what happened to James and John, the sons of Zebedee. Jesus comes up to them and he calls them. Now, if we understand the rabbinical history correctly, James and John were working with their father because they flunked out of rabbinical school. They'd come to the place where they had gone as far as they could go without being selected by a rabbi for that one-on-one following. And so they were told, go home, learn your father's trade, make a living. This is what you do now. That's what they were told. And James and John had flunked out. They'd been told, you washed out. So go home, learn your father's trade. Jesus comes along and he says to them, hey, boys, come follow me. Now, we don't know exactly how old these boys were, but probably not more than 15 or 16 years old when they began to follow Jesus. They were young. They were just young men when they became followers of Jesus. And in my mind, in my imagination, I don't think that Zebedee went home that night and says, oh my, to his wife, oh my, somebody came and convinced our boys to follow him today. It is so sad. It's so sad. I don't think that's what Zebedee did at all. I think Zebedee went home and he said to his wife, you see who's not with me? There are two people missing today. Have you noticed? 2 less places to sit at the table tonight for supper. There are 2 less people. You know why? Because a rabbi came along and he looked at our 2 boys and he said, I think that you have what it takes to follow me, to be like me. And Zebedee and his wife undoubtedly had a party because their boys had been chosen by a rabbi to follow that rabbi. They'd been inspired to follow Jesus. What a magnificent picture in my mind, maybe in yours as well. So we want to inspire people to follow Jesus, to follow him, because Jesus looks at you and me. And if you're a follower of Jesus, at some point in your heart and in your mind, God has spoken to you by the power of his Holy Spirit, and he has implored you and motivated you to follow Jesus. And you've started that process. Maybe it was a crisis moment when you prayed a prayer with an adult or another person and you said, this is the point from which I'm following Jesus. Maybe it was a slow, long-term process spread out over years, and you had to go through all kinds of things to work on the questions you had and the doubts that you had and all the pain in your life, and then you slowly realize, hey, I'm following Jesus. Either way, the Holy Spirit has worked in you to inspire you to follow Jesus. And here's what I want you to know, especially those of you who are not yet following Jesus, whether you're here in the room or watching us online. What we want you to know is we want to inspire you to follow Jesus, but we also want to eliminate as many obstacles as possible. We want to eliminate as many obstacles as possible, the things that get in your way, the doubts, the questions, the pain, the hurt, the betrayal, the horrible way that you've been treated in other churches, whatever. We want to help eliminate those obstacles so that following Jesus can be natural and normal. I'm I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that it's going to be easy. I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you that everything's going to be okay once you start following Jesus. I'm not going to stand up here and deceive you that if you follow Jesus, all the bad stuff in your life is going to go away. It doesn't. But Jesus does promise to forgive us and restore us and renew us and walk with us through the pain, through the hurt, through the obstacles in our life. And we want to eliminate as many of those obstacles as possible. So you're going to hear a lot in the weeks to come that we're here to inspire people to follow Jesus and eliminate as many obstacles as possible. And here's why. It's because of what Jesus said to us. He'd already died on the cross. He'd already defeated death and rose from the grave. And he comes to his disciples and they meet together and he says to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. All authority. And Jesus is now, he's going to pass on that authority. That's what this means. He says, I have the authority to do this, and I'm giving you that same authority. Therefore, and you know, whenever we see that word, we better find out what it's there for. And it's there because he's going to give us power and authority to do what he's calling us to do. So he says, therefore, go. Therefore, go. Now, friends, if we're going to follow Jesus, we can't do it and do nothing. Following Jesus is an active, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally active process. Following Jesus does not mean that you kick back in your recliner and you say, I'm a follower of Jesus, and then nothing in your life changes. No priorities, nothing. If you do that, then you're not a follower of Jesus. It's just impossible. A follower of Jesus does not stand in the garage and say to everybody, I'm now a Volkswagen. It's impossible to become a Volkswagen if all you're doing is standing in the garage. It's not going to happen. But there's so many people that they pray a prayer, they come forward, they become a member of the church, they get baptized, and they say, okay, I've got that crossed off my list. I don't have to do anything anymore. No, following is an active, physically, emotionally, spiritual process. Follow means that we do something, and Jesus describes it as go. Go. Therefore, go and make disciples, followers. That's what the word disciple is. It's just another word for follower. Make disciples of all nations. Everybody is welcome to join in following Jesus. Every single person. Baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely, says Jesus, as certain as the sun comes up and the sun goes down, surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. This is why you and I are called to inspire people to follow Jesus and to eliminate as many obstacles as possible. He told us that's what we're to do. He told us in no uncertain terms, go, 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 and make disciples, make followers, duplicate yourself. Say to other people, look, I'm not perfect, but would you join me in following Jesus because he is? It's Jesus' word to us that says it's not enough just to wear a label that says, I'm a Christian. And really, in our culture now, Christian doesn't mean anything anymore. That's why I use follower of Jesus so much, because it describes me better than the term Christian. I want to be known as a follower of Jesus. I want you to be known as followers of Jesus. because we have a tremendous challenge living in what has now become post-Christian America. And I know that this is going to offend some of you. Some of you are going to want to argue with me, but, we're not a Christian nation. We're not. Just look at what's taking place in the marketplace, in the political arena, in the financial markets. Look at the greed and evil and sin that has permeated everything. Please, we're not a Christian America anymore. We're not. We're post-Christian. You may have been successful to describe us that way, even 25 or 30 years ago, but not anymore. Not anymore. We're not a Christian nation anymore. We've moved beyond it. Unfortunately, we've moved beyond a shared value in morality and in ethics. And we basically now say that you can determine what your own truth is, instead of maintaining that there is one truth, and it's found in a man by the name of Jesus, who was God incarnate when he lived on this earth. That's the message that we have to share. And we have to share it right here where we live. I mean, do you know, and you've heard me say this many times in the last 8 years, there are 25,000 people within a 25-mile radius of where you're sitting right now. 25 people who are uninspired to follow Jesus. They have no religious preference. They don't attend any church, and there are 25,000 of them. Do you know that means we could fill, if my estimates are correct in any way, of looking at the 50-plus churches in Ottumwa, we could fill every seat in every church in Ottumwa 4 times every weekend and still not get all those 25,000 people in church. But here's the challenge. Going to church doesn't make anybody a Jesus follower. Never has and never will. It's like standing in the garage and claiming to be a Volkswagen. It's empty. It's silly. And we have a challenge to reach out and meet and develop relationships with and say to those 25,000 people, look, I'm not perfect, but I'm following Jesus. Would you join me? Would you come with me? It's an adventure. It's not going to mean everything in your life gets fixed tomorrow, but it's going to mean that you now have Christ to go with you, to walk with you through all that life throws at us. I mean, it has hit home for me so dramatically this week as I've watched the pictures of the devastation that has been racked by the hurricanes, both the one that hit Newfoundland and now the one that has hit Florida and crossed over and come back and hit South Carolina. It's horrible. And I want to say to those people, I want to say, if you follow Jesus, he's going to put your house back. But that's not going to happen. But I can say, you and I can say, if you follow Jesus, he's going to be right there with you through the pain and the grief of loss, through the frustration of the FEMA paperwork, through all the hurt that you're going to uncover as you look to see what's left of all your belongings and all the keepsakes you had and all those things that are now gone. Jesus walks with you. There are 25,000 uninspired people right here in our area that we need to reach out to with that message. Secondly, digital is here to stay. We said this a few weeks ago in our You Asked For It series. We're not planning to end our online broadcast of the service or stop posting the videos of the service or the message, because digital is here to stay. We are now a digital church with a physical presence. 5 years ago, we were a physical church with a digital presence, but it's reversed now. Because if you go and look at the numbers on Vimeo and Facebook and YouTube channel that we have where we put out our service, there are almost as many people watching us online as there are gathered in this room. And it's our reality. And we need to rise to that reality. It means that we have challenges that we face as we continue to accept and embrace, and really embrace is the word I want to use, as we embrace the reality that we are a digital church, and digital is here to stay. Have you noticed, when you come to church, have you noticed the construction across the road? Do you know that just across the street, by the end of the spring, there will be 100 new apartments over there? 100 new apartments. JBS is estimating that they're going to fill half of those or more with their employees that they're bringing into this community. The mission field's coming to us, folks. And whether you're for it or against it, whatever your position is, though every one of those individuals represents the possibility of a new follower of Jesus. Every one of them. Everyone. And we have a challenge. We have a responsibility to reach out to those individuals because those people represent the world. And I don't know how many people that's going to be. I mean, if the average size of a family that moves in there is 4, that's 400 people. And let's make sure that we know how to represent Jesus to each one of those individuals. You know, one of the things that has just made my heart sing in the last, it's been almost a year now, is our outreach to what is known as the Ottumwa Residential Facility. I don't know how many people we have here today from that facility. Some of them are sitting in the commons, some of them are in this room. I love that they're coming to be a part of Northgate Church. It is so wonderful to have them and to know that they are here experiencing worship and fellowship, koinonia with us. I'm hoping that all, if not most of them, stay next week for our Project 246. I hope they get signed up because I want you to meet them, because I've had some conversations with some of them. They are wonderful people. And they warm my heart every time I have a conversation with them because they are truly following Jesus in some very difficult circumstances. And not only that, I mean, there's the Hope House and our relationship with them through our ladies' Bible study. And we're trying to get certified, I'm still not sure what all that means, as a place where those residents can come and worship with us too. And be a part of us and enjoy the koinonia that we enjoy here at Northgate. This is all a part of who we are. We need to continue to explore community partnerships. This is all about going further. And those community partnerships can be a real challenge. You know, we've put a lot of time and effort as a church into getting a community-wide initiative started called Ottumwa Crossings, which was planning on using the Bridges Out of Poverty curriculum. In the process of doing this, we have learned so much about all the community service organizations in our city. And I've been really astounded by how many services are already out there. But I've also been astounded by their need for volunteers, their need for getting the word out so that people take advantage of those programs, for the resources they need to promote those programs. And so Ottumwa Crossings, we're looking at maybe the best thing for us to do as a group of concerned people that cross several churches. Maybe the most important thing for us to do is figure out how to partner with the organizations that are already at work. Why should we go and duplicate it? Why should we start something new? Let's partner with them. Let's make them better instead of trying to claim some ubiquitous high ground and say, we're going to do it right. No, there are already people that are doing it right. Oh, yeah, we would change things. We would tweak this and tweak. But that doesn't make a difference when we're following Jesus. Not only that is the community partnerships, but the U.S.-based outreach we need to figure out how to do. I've already been asked, Pastor, are we going to have a work team to go down to Florida and help? Let's work on it. Let's find out. Is it possible? How soon is it possible? Right now, they don't need us. I mean, right now, basically what they need is, great big scoop shovels, pile up the debris and haul it away. At some point, they'll need us. How can we figure that out? How do we go about this? I don't know. I know that I've already been in communication with a relief organization called Convoy of Hope. And if you want to follow it, just go to convoyofhope.org. It's all, just mash it all together, look it up on your computer, convoyofhope.org. They're an incredibly astute relief organization. One of the reasons I love them is that they spend less than 4 cents out of every dollar on administration and fundraising. That's way lower than the national average of 12. And that's one of the reasons why I love Convoy of Hope. But we're going to figure it out, because that's another way for us to be involved in the world that we live in. We continue to be involved with Paraguay through Noe and Kyla Hernandez and through Jenny Kerr, who teaches at the school down there, and we will continue to pursue those relationships. We hope in the next couple of weeks to announce a mission trip opportunity for all of you to go down there. And we're hoping that we fill a team up with 12 people really quickly once that gets announced. So bear that in mind. Save, the dates in March, because we're trying to get all those details worked out. And not only that, but we're a part of the Alliance. And as a part of this movement that we call the Christian Missionary Alliance, we have 22,000 churches around the world. And we can partner with them. We help support over 800 missionaries in 60 countries around the world. And we want to partner more closely with those people. So, I want to remind you why we do this. We're doing this because we want to inspire people to follow Jesus and eliminate as many obstacles as possible. That means that we put people and relationships ahead of programs. Every time. I always have a challenge when you come to me and you say, Pastor, we need a program for one-legged people. And I'm being a little facetious here, but I don't want to pick on anybody in particular. We need a program to minister to one-legged people. Great. Go start it. Well, Pastor, we need to do this as a whole church. You need to stand up on the stage and promote this. And we need a ministry to one-legged people. And then I said, well, how many one-legged people do you know? Oh. Here's the deal. If we need to minister to 3, 4, 5 people who only have one leg, go and build a relationship with them. Invite them to lunch. Take them to coffee. Have them over to your house for a meal. Take them to a ball game. We don't need to start a program to do that. People and relationships are way more important than programs. Furthermore, faithfulness. Faithfulness is way more important than piety. And you say, well, Pastor, what do you mean by piety? I mean this attitude that we can sometimes have as followers of Jesus, where we wear this badge and we say, well, I'm a Christian, so I don't do that. And you can fill in the blank with whatever you want. I don't do blank because I'm a follower of Jesus. Come on, can we stop that? Can we stop that? Please. It's not true, for one thing. I mean, followers of Jesus have just a higher rate of divorce in their marriages as people outside the church. Followers of Jesus have just as much statistical problem with alcoholism and drug addiction as anybody else. Followers of Jesus get arrested for petty theft just as much as people who are outside of being followers of Jesus. Let's quit pretending that we're not a sinful people. Let's quit pretending that we are some kind of pious people that don't have problems in our lives. That's not even being honest with ourselves. Faithfulness is way more important than piety. Jesus wants our faithfulness. He doesn't want our perfection. There's no call from Jesus that we live a perfect life. No call. Peter goes to great lengths to explain in his book, he says that we should be perfect as God is perfect. But that's the goal. That's not the end result. And Peter goes to great extents to say, that's our hope for the future. That's when we get to heaven. That's when we have Jesus return and call us to himself. That is the time in which we experience that perfection. And humility is always better than keeping the rules. Humility is always better than keeping the rules. We try to practice this around here. We don't want people to get stuck in the rules. People will say to me sometimes on a Sunday morning after the service, if you stand in the commons for very long, there are going to be little kids running back and forth. And people say to me, these kids shouldn't be running in church. Why not? I want them to love coming to church. And I will go to every extreme to protect their ability to experience fun at church. And if that means running in the commons, let them run, for goodness sakes. I'm so glad we have kids. I traveled for 10 years helping churches all over the Midwest, 90-some churches. I traveled, put 700,000 miles on 3 different cars. And I'm telling you, there are so many churches that don't have little kids that it would break your heart if you saw it. And every one of those churches is going to die in the next 10 years because they don't have any kids. Bring them on. Let them run. Let's be humble about it. Because it's far more important than keeping rules. And then let's put service above performance. Let's always put service before performance. We're not here to perform. We're here to serve. We're here to serve each other. We're here to serve the Lord, to serve our community, to serve our country, to serve our world. That's why we're here. Now, real quick. Okay, Jim, what are we supposed to do about all this? So I want to remind you of where we've come from just in the last 3 years. 3 years ago, we broke ground for the remodel and the addition that many of you don't know Northgate without because you're new. And we broke ground to do that. The cost of that remodel and addition and all the work we did was $1,463,812. That's what it cost. We had an estimate of $1.5 million. We came in under that. By the way, the general contractor, the design build firm we use, got a bonus because they came in early and under budget, and we paid that bonus gladly because that doesn't happen in this world anymore. And of that $1.5 million, we figured that we were going to have to borrow $1 million. So we arranged for $1 million line of credit. But 2 years ago, when we had to turn that line of credit into a mortgage, you had been so extraordinarily generous, over and above anything that anybody ever dreamed, especially our financial institution, that we only had to borrow $850,000. That's all we had to borrow, because you had been so generous. That means that of our cost, $644,680 has already come in. That's a figure that's current as of Friday night at midnight. Jerry Kerr keeps track of our finances. He is amazing. You know, I walk into my office yesterday morning, at my study at home and turn on my computer, and the email is already sitting there with the October financial report. I don't know of any other church that has a financial report within 12 hours of the end of the month, but we do. And you can thank Jerry for that, because that's what's come in. That's amazing. You did that. God did that through you. And that means that we only have $619,352 left to pay. That's all. When the bank amortized this loan, they amortized it over 19 years. And we said, no way, no way. You see, we already have paid $71,000 in interest. We've already paid that in interest. That's like, bye-bye money. And that's at an absolutely wonderful rate. We got the loan for this project at 4%. And that was a gift from God. That was a gift, 4%. But here's what we need. We need you to begin thinking and praying about how can we join together to reduce our debt and the interest we're paying, because we know that we're not done yet. We have further to go. We need to inspire people to follow Jesus and eliminate as many obstacles as possible. That's our responsibility. And part of that means eliminating all the debt we can eliminate. It's really important for us to do this. It will enable us to do so many things. And next week, we're going to build on this. We're going to tell you some things that we're going to start doing immediately when the extra funds come in that allow us to pay down debt. Because right now, the month that just ended in September, we underspent our every budget line in our ministry budgets. We underspent in order to be able to pay as much as we could on that mortgage principal. And that means there are things that have not been done yet that we have said are important to do. So come next week, we'll share those things with you and make sure that you understand that. Now, let me end with this, because it's really important for you to hear this. In Jesus' day, in the rabbinical system, when James and John were called by Jesus to be his followers, there was a blessing that we find in the Mishnah, which is the Jewish worship handbook. We find this blessing in the Mishnah. And the blessing that Zebedee and his wife would have given to their two sons was this: may you be covered in the dust of your rabbi. In other words, may you follow your rabbi so closely that the dust from his sandals gets kicked up on you. May you follow your rabbi so closely that his dust and your dust are commingled. May you follow your rabbi so closely that you learn what he's thinking before he says it. May you follow your rabbi so closely that you completely embrace all that he represents and all that he teaches, so that you become like your rabbi. So would you please stand? Because as we leave here today, and even if you're home, even if you're watching this, I know an older guy who watches this in his pickup truck while he's counting his cows, and I would say to him, get out of your pickup, stand next to your pickup, because I want to give this blessing to you. I want you to hear this. May each one of you, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, if you have made this decision to follow Jesus, may you be covered in the dust of your rabbi. Amen.